Yes, it is that time. It's mock draft season.
Oh boy.
We are helping out the one quarterback gang.
Gang gang.
If you're part of the one quarterback gang, comment down. Y'all know the deal.
All love.
But we're here to help you guys out. What we've done is we have looked at a recent 7-round mock draft. This is from Shane Hollum from Draft Countdown, and we are using those landing spots to do a one quarterback mock draft for you guys, and we'll talk about these players in the 2024 class. I love this class. You love this class. It's completely stacked at everywhere except running back.
Yes.
And we'll talk about that. I'm sure it'll be a theme. But I'm going to go ahead and give you the honor of the 101, Badaki, for the first one quarterback mock draft of the year.
The year.
What are you thinking here with the 101? By the way, PPR, non-tight end premium, just so that's out of the way.
Yeah, PPR non-tight end premium at the 101 here in a one quarterback, draft. Of course, is Marvin Harrison, the elite of the elites, in my opinion. One of the best wide receivers coming out this year, and he's going to the Arizona Cardinals. Something special there happening with Kyler Murray, now Hollywood Brown, and maybe they even get a running back later in this draft as well. There's no doubt that Marvin Harrison, with an elite quarterback, is just going to have an elite year. I mean, I feel like we're going to be that the word elite is going to be overused probably throughout this offseason with Marvin Harrison. So keep that in mind. I don't want to spend too much time. You guys know about Marvin Harrison, one of the best route runners, the complete wide receivers. I compared him to someone on the likes of the Julio Jones type of elite player coming out of college, and that's exactly what he's going to do here with the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, and the word elite might be overused, but it's used properly when we talk about the likes of Marvin Harrison Jr. And speaking of elite, you know, a lot of people are telling you that there's only one elite wide receiver in this class. I don't personally agree. I think there is actually two elite wide receivers in this class. Marvin Harrison Jr. for sure, but at the 102, I'm going to go Malik Neighbors, who ends up with the New York Jets.
Oh, boy.
Interesting landing spot, but I'm not going to pass up on the talent. Now, what we do know is he's going to have Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball at least this year. You and I have talked about this, Badaki.
Yeah.
I believe that Aaron Rodgers is going to give the Jets at least 2 more years, personally. That's my personal opinion. I think you might agree with me.
Yeah.
I think he was robbed of what could have happened this year. We've seen the elite defense, but to be fair, outside of Garrett Wilson, it's been a huge need for this team to have another playmaker as a receiver. Now, Brees is great out of the backfield, but I think Malik and Garrett Wilson could complement each other really well. And Aaron Rodgers is a very good quarterback. I think he can make both of those guys fantasy relevant. So I'll take Malik here at the 102.
New York getting another elite wide receiver with Malik Neighbors and Garrett Wilson here. Let's stay in New York. Let's go upstate here with the Buffalo Bills. And they're getting their first wide receiver. I would say their new wide receiver in Rome Odunze out of Washington.
Love it.
This guy is getting close to that word elite. I wouldn't say he has all the traits, but he is somebody that what we've seen on tape and scouting and everything that we have done so far, he is somebody that is out there. Going to the Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen. Gabe Davis is unrestricted free agent going into the year 2024. So that is something easily you can see. Not only he is a better route runner, but he is an overall better wide receiver than a Gabe Davis. And you think of those boom games for him. Now think of that with Rome Odunze. I would say a more complete wide receiver than Gabe Davis, pairing up with Josh Allen, being the deep ball threat. Not only that, having secure hands, and also can play somebody in the middle as well. So Rome Odunze going to the Buffalo Bills here at the 103.
Yeah, I said with Rome, if you combine Cortland Sutton and like prime Cortland Sutton, his contested catch ability, with Chris Olave's route running, you get a player like Rome Odunze. That's
with T. Higgins' hands.
Very special. Yeah, with T. Higgins' hands. Perfect. That's a special player. All right, I think there's a lot of different ways I could go here. It genuinely feels like there's 4 players I could select at this point. But I think even in a non-tight end premium, I think I would go Brock Bowers here.
Okay.
The landing spot, I don't think you could dream up of a better landing spot in this mock. He goes to the Cincinnati Bengals at pick 15 in this one. And in this scenario, I'm assuming T. Higgins has probably moved on because you've got a playmaker in Brock Bowers to kind of replace that complementary piece. And I don't even want to say complimentary piece because I think Brock Bowers is as good as a prospect as Kyle Pitts, if not better. That there's a scenario here where this is actually 1A, 1B with Jamar Chase as far as target share. And I just think that this would be the perfect fit attached to the perfect quarterback. So Brock Bowers, there are 3 elite players at their position off the board at minimum so far.
Yeah.
It's crazy how good this class is.
Yeah, it is crazy how good this class is. I mean, some of these wide receivers, we still have, I'd say, 3 to 4 first-round wide receivers. Actually, 3 first-round wide receivers still available here.
In the mock draft? Yeah.
In this mock draft that we have. I'm looking at it. I'm not loving the landing spots. So
there's a certain player you and I love, but this landing spot.
The landing spot is not fun. So I'm going to pivot. I'm going to go with something a little bit different here. And I see a running back that I like. Maybe it's too early, but let's shake it up. It's the first one of the year so far. He is actually your RB1. Trey Benson in the second round, going to, I think, one of the best landing spots here for a running back, and that is the Baltimore Ravens. With with J.K. Dobbins obviously tearing his Achilles, he is, one of the worst injuries for a running back in tearing his Achilles, and now he also tore his Achilles and his ACL in 2 different years. I'm not necessarily believing that he is going to be coming back in a fantasy perspective, in my opinion. So, and Gus Edwards is not the long-term answer, but Trey Benson, one of the top 2 running backs in this draft class coming out of Florida State, and he going to the Baltimore Ravens, especially with Lamar Jackson, and how we saw J.K. Dobbins, how good he was going to be in the first round or the first game of the season, and seeing how good Gus Edwards is so far this year, Trey Benson, in my opinion, is a better talent than both of those guys now, and he is going to the Baltimore Ravens. So I'm shaking it up. I'm going with the running back. Obviously, I can go with the wide receiver here, but let's have a conversation.
Yeah, I wanted to pick Trey Benson because you know how much I love him. He is my RB1.
I'm
surprised you didn't go with your RB1.
I like this landing spot over the other one, and sometimes me, I like to go based off landing spot and what those things can do for a prospect.
You and I definitely operate differently there because it's always just best player available for me. And I think the best player available here is Emeka Egbuka. I talked about this in a video that's going to be releasing for you guys soon, but Emeka Egbuka is not given the respect that he's deserving right now because of the Marvin Harrison love, and also because, rightfully so, and also because he has been injured this year. But Emeka Egbuka, in my opinion, has a chance to be one of the best wide receivers in the league. He is that good. I think he has absolutely a chance to be a top 12 wide receiver in the league. He is a route running technician. The dude, it's an art for him. Some people, route running, it's an art for them. Emeka Egbuka, absolutely. He has that special tempo within his routes that some of the best route runners in the world have. He's out of Ohio State, the Brian Hartline effect. If you're betting on Ohio State wide receiver, you're making a damn good bet. Pro comp reminds me a little bit of Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah.
And a Robert Woods. And you combine those 2 players, you get one hell of a fantasy asset and you get one hell of a player. Now, like I mentioned, for me, it's typically landing spot, or it's typically player talent over anything else. But the landing spot is not ideal. The Pittsburgh Steelers, it's really, really messy there. What does that mean for Deontay Johnson? Are they going to try and trade him away? Who's the quarterback there? It's
There's
little
a lot
bit
of
messy,
question marks,
but I'm going to go ahead and take Emeka here at the 106.
Yeah, look, it makes sense there. A lot of question marks going in. Maybe Deontay Johnson is no longer on this team. Maybe Kenny Pickett is no longer on this team somehow in the offseason. And Emeka Egbuka going there can 100% be worthy of going in the 105 to 106 spot here. Okay, going at the 107. Once again, a lot of different ways you can go here. I'm going to continue riding at the wide receiver train here. Troy Franklin. And he goes to the Houston Texans here. And I like
super interesting landing spot.
It is super interesting landing spot. Obviously, Tank Dell did broke his fibia, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And he is clearly out for the season. As we're recording this, we're going into week 14. So whenever you are watching this, know that. I'm not saying that Troy Franklin is not going to be fantasy relevant. I love him being in the slot. But with Tank Dell there, he's most likely going to be on the outside, which we've seen success in college, especially Now that CJ Stroud is understanding he's clearly one of the best quarterbacks out of this draft class or of last year, and how he has been producing fantasy relevant wide receivers, this is just another guy to add to this list. And Troy Franklin, a deep ball threat, somebody that can separate in the second level, has, I would say, great elite long run speed, and that's exactly what you can see here for the Houston Texans and Troy Franklin. So this one's really exciting, especially with CJ Stroud under center.
Frozone heads to Houston. You know, I think that the Texans will tell us what they think about their wide receiver room by their actions this offseason. There'll be some free agents that they could sign. It's absolutely a class that they could draft a wide receiver. If they were to spend a first-round pick on a wide receiver like they have here in this mock with Troy Franklin, I think that would tell us that the side of the community who is saying it's CJ who's elevating the wide receivers. They would be right in the community's eyes. Now, in this scenario, they have done that, so it makes sense. I think Troy Franklin would be an incredible asset attached to CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
Now, if they don't go wide receiver, they're saying, actually, we're good. CJ Stroud has already got two guys that we love in Nico and Tank Dell. So I think that question will be answered for us this offseason. That's exciting if one of these guys links up with the likes of CJ Stroud. So CJ Stroud off the board. Now, the next available, how do I say this? Like, the next player that is in my rankings is drafted in the second round of this mock draft.
Okay.
But I think this is where I would probably go with the next running back off the board.
Okay, I thought you were going to stretch it. I was trying to see how long I can let him go. I thought you would go with another wide receiver here.
There's a couple options, but this is where I would go with Travion Henderson out of Ohio State. He gets drafted by the Green Bay Packers in the second round. He was the 40th overall pick. That's a really good range. I mean, Trey Benson, it's a technicality, right? I prefer Trey Benson over Travion Henderson, but Trey Benson was drafted late second. You see Travion drafted early second, top 40 pick for Travion here to the Green Bay Packers. Yeah. And if you think about it, it really does make sense. What was a strength for the Packers for so long is not really a strength anymore, is it?
No,
I mean, the running back age cliff is inevitable. Aaron Jones cannot stay healthy. He's not really the same exact player he was in his prime. And A.J. Dillon is not exciting. It's not a player that's going to win you games. It's not a player that you feel comfortable with establishing, this dynamic run game. Sure, he can be a complementary piece, but I think Travion Henderson actually gives them basically what Aaron Jones was for all those years, but now in a younger player who has a lot of dynamic abilities to his game. We talked about how good of a pass catcher he was. It looks like Jordan Love is the truth, so you're going to get a potential dynamic athlete here in Travion Henderson who has that home run hitting speed. So yeah, I like this pick here with Travion off the board at the 108. And I will say that there is a argument to be made where I don't know how you stand, but there's 4 running backs that I like in this class, but there are only 2 that I feel really good about. And I think there is an argument to be made that out of how scarce this position is right now in the class and in the landscape of Dynasty, that making a pick like this over a wide receiver, it does make some sense. There is some validity to it.
Yeah, 100%. And that's exactly what we kind of been preaching at least like the last couple of weeks since we've been scouting this running back class. If you are struggling at the running back position and you're telling me you have the 103, the 104, or even the 105, you might have to consider maybe trading that pick to get an elite running back like a Breece Hall, like a Travis Etienne, whatever that looks like for you. Because not saying Trey Benson or Travion Henderson can't do that for your team, but we know the products of what we've seen so far in the Breece Halls, in the Travis Etienne, and just to get the security in that. Anything can happen in this class, but you probably won't see a running back here maybe until the mid to late second round now in a mock draft. Probably. Even in a one quarterback potentially, so keep that in mind. All right, I'm at the 109 here. There's a couple different options you can go here. There is a wide receiver that I do like, and I said this on our live streams multiple times and even in our videos that we've created at the wide receiver video, and I really don't like this landing spot, but I'm still going to rock with it. Even though I'm kind of going off my word with the talent, kind of like what I did with Travion Henderson. But, you know, it's the first one of the season. We like to do some things differently and switch it up. And that is Xavier Worthy. He's going to the Kansas City Chiefs. One of the things I've said in past videos here is that I like Xavier Worthy as a slot wide receiver. And what everyone loves about Xavier Worthy is how great he can extend the play, or I get take the top off the defense, right? When you see somebody that has great long run speed, that's someone like Xavier Worthy. I don't want that going to the Kansas City Chiefs, but if he can get into the mix as a slot wide receiver, what they thought Sky Moore was, what they probably thought Kadarius Toney was, and not use him as an MVS or McCole Harmon, that's exactly what I would want here for Xavier Worthy going to the Kansas City Chiefs. So if they use him in the right way, and obviously we would never know that until we see him on the fields, I would take Xavier Worthy here.
Yeah, it's the old Chiefs bump that people have.
Which is scary, which is very scary.
Mm-hmm. People either, like, there will be people who comment saying, how did Xavier fall that far if he's drafted to the Chiefs? You know, there are other people who say it's a trap. Like, the Chiefs, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just a trap. What I will say is, in this mock, they did spend a first-round pick, their first-round pick on Xavier Worthy. That would indicate to me that they have big plans for him. And at some point, it feels like Kelsey's on the way out. Someone's got to step up. I'm not sure Xavier Worthy can be like a premier number one for a team, but he has the draft capital to have the shot there in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So this is where I think I would start taking a quarterback, and that would be Caleb Williams for me. He's the number one pick in this scenario to the Chicago Bears. The more you think about it, not really that bad of a landing spot. I mean, hopefully, ideally, they change their coaching staff, but now you've got Caleb Williams. He gets to link up with DJ Moore. Cole Kmet he's okay. Who knows what they do in free agency.
Don't do that to Cole. Don't do that to Cole. Come on.
He's all right. He's okay. But Caleb Williams steps into Chicago. Now, will he be okay going to Chicago? I don't know. This is just a mock draft, but I'll take him here. It's tough to know exactly where to take these quarterbacks in a one quarterback format. I mean, you can make the argument if you play in like an 8 or a 10-man league, maybe you don't even think about quarterback yet. But in a 12-man league with a guy like Caleb, with all the talent to be the number one quarterback in Dynasty at some point, like he has all that talent to be. I'm not saying it will happen. I'll go ahead and take him here at the 110.
Yeah, look, this makes sense to me, and it's kind of like last year. Remember last year I was taking quarterbacks at the end of the first, early second, and it kind of paid off if you got someone like a CJ Stroud.
Depends on who you got.
Exactly, depends on who you got in some of these scenarios here. I'm happy to continue to punt this quarterback position here. We obviously have two quarterbacks still that went in the first round. I'm happy to wait. And just wait and see what can happen here. But I'm going to go with my wide receiver 6. He went in the second round, and he goes to my beloved New York Football Giants here. Yeah. And that is Brian Thompson Jr. If you're telling me that...
why do you always say Thompson, by the way?
Brian Thomas. I have no idea. You know me. This is me with names. Welcome to the show. Brian Thompson, or Thomas Jr. There we go. See, did it again. He goes to my beloved New York Football Giants.
We're going to have to change his name. We're going to have to legally change his name.
He needs to. I might message him. Great friend of the show. He goes to my Giants, and he also going to be paired with a quarterback here. Maybe Zach does take him after this pick here at the 112, or maybe I'm going to be taking him here very soon. But a big body wide receiver that we needed for a very long time, and that's exactly what you can see. One of the, I would say, underrated wide receivers that he does go in the middle of the second here already in a mock draft. That tells me gives me the indication that he is going to be rising, in my opinion, as we get closer and closer to the season. Obviously, anything can happen. Things can fall. But if you don't know who Brian Thomas Jr. is, please go check him out of LSU. Big 6'4", 220 pounds plus guy. Great hands.
No, he's 205, but he is 6'4". Yeah.
6'4", 205, great hands. Very fluid off the line. And that's exactly what you can see here going to the Giants.
Yeah, I think he ends up in the first round. In this mock draft, he's in the second. So it made me a little bit more hesitant to pick him. Now, you're right. I am going to go quarterback next.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not going to be the quarterback that everyone wants or maybe expects me to go.
Oh boy.
With this pick, I'm going to take Jaden Daniels, who ends up with the New England Patriots, and he is actually the third overall pick in the draft. He goes number 3 to the Patriots in today's mock draft that we're taking these landing
Yep.
spots from. But if you guys watched our first live stream where we did the Superflex mock, I talked about how I personally believe Jaden Daniels and Drake May, I believe that they should be in the same tier. Now, I know not a lot of people agree with me. It's a very split opinion. It might be a hot take. I don't care. But when I think about a superstar fantasy quarterback, Jaden Daniels has all the recipes, all the ingredients, excuse me, for that to be a successful outcome for him. When I look at him, I see Robert Griffin III. If RG3 was coming out of college today as a young rookie and he was drafted number 3 overall in today's game where rushing is more accepted, where would you guys rank RG3? I mean, it would be like you found gold, like genuinely. I see a lot of RG3 in his game, a little bit of Jalen Hurts. He's not as physical as Jalen Hurts. And I see a little Deshaun Watson as well. But nobody had a better year in college football than Jaden Daniels this year. He had the number 1 offensive grade from PFF. He had the second best passing grade, the number 1 NFL passer rating. He completed 71% of his passes. He had the third most big time throws. He only threw 4 interceptions, which is the 8th best in the nation. He is my Heisman. I don't know what's going to happen there, but he's also a dual threat prospect. He is the only player. Guys, college football has been around for 153 years. Jaden Daniels is the only player ever to have 350 passing yards and 200 plus rushing yards in a single game. And you might say, oh, he probably did it one of those terrible competition, one of those easy games. He did that versus Florida. SEC Florida.
Florida.
Dominated the SEC the entire year, has elite deep ball accuracy, the number 1 passing grade for 20 plus yard throws at 99.1. He's a play extender. He's consistently improved throughout his career. I'm going to take him here with my pick. I just think this is a player that could end up being, one of the most valuable quarterbacks in fantasy if things go his way.
Yeah. Look, Jaden Daniels, a lot of people do like him. I think we're going to see a lot of what he's done so far this year, especially him winning the Heisman, is definitely going to boost his stock.
Well, I don't know if he's going to. He's my Heisman.
I'm saying if he wins the Heisman, he can. I think that is going to boost his stock significantly, in my opinion, as we get into this NFL draft season. All right, going the start of the second round here, he took a quarterback that I thought he should have taken maybe at the 112. But he goes to my beloved New York Football Giants, and that is Drake May out of North Carolina, one of my favorite quarterbacks coming out of this class, and he is the perfect fit for my Giants here. He is a typical system quarterback. Not only that, with great deep ball accuracy and some legs that he can run to extend the play. Yes, Jaden Daniels is going to be a good fantasy wide receiver or quarterback. I actually believe Drake May could be those things because of the same reason of Jaden Daniels. I think Jaden Daniels is a little bit more faster, a little bit more fluid in space, without a doubt. But, Drake May, one of the perfect size for a quarterback, 6'4", 230, big body, young, 21 years old, of course. And he's going to go with Brian Dable, who has built a quarterback that has those traits in the past. That's why we were all infatuated with Daniel Jones and what he's done, last year. Obviously didn't pan out this year, but Drake May, I would say, has the even more overall completed traits than Daniel Jones. And not only that, once again, big body frame, great deep ball accuracy, and he's pairing that up with Brian Thomas Jr., who is going to be a deep ball guy. Not only that, with Jalen Hyatt and Saquon Barkley, if he does stay, I think Drake May is a perfect fit for our organization. Whether that's Drake, whether that's Jaden Daniels, whether that is Caleb Williams, I'm happy with all three of these guys going to my Giants.
Yeah, I think Drake May is a fantastic prospect. I don't dislike Drake May at all. I think there are 3 elite quarterback prospects in this class, and the Giants got one, the Patriots got one. I think Drake May is. I don't think he's a complete. How do I say this? I don't think his game is in its final form yet. There's a lot of growth yet to happen, but I can't help but see the likes of Justin Herbert when I watch him. I think that is the ceiling of the type of player you could get is Justin Herbert. I think the floor, oddly enough, my floor comp, Giants fans might not like that, but Daniel Jones was my floor comp.
DJ.
So he's going to be somewhere between Daniel Jones and Justin Herbert, and I think he's attached to a great coaching staff and has some weapons around him. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to the 202, and you just got a wide receiver and paired him with a quarterback on the same team. I'm going to do the same. I just drafted Jaden Daniels, and I'm now at the 202 going to draft his new number 1 wide receiver in New England in Jalen McMillan. Jalen McMillan is the 35th pick in this mock draft, so early second round, and he instantly would become Jaden Daniels' number 1 weapon in New England. Y'all know I love me some Jalen McMillan. I think he is discount Emeka Egbuka in this class. I don't think he gets the respect that he deserves. He was injured a lot of the year, but he is an elite slot guru type route runner. I mean, he is a special player in my opinion. Super versatile, reliable, always getting open. My comps for him, I think he can be as good as a Keenan Allen, and his floor is Tyler Boyd. But more likely his middle ground is the likes of like a Christian Kirk type player. So I'll take him there at the 202, which honestly feels like a steal, but it makes sense because there's so much talent in this class.
Yeah, there is a lot of talent in this class here, and I'm looking at where I should be pivoting to. I have no idea, to be completely honest with you. There are a lot of wide receivers that I can go still on the board, and I think there are people screaming at our screens right now saying, where the hell is this person? Why haven't you drafted somebody out of Florida State, 6'4", big body wide receiver, everyone projecting to be a top, 15 wide receiver? We don't see him in that light, but Keon Coleman.
Top 15 pick.
Top 15 pick, yeah. In the actual NFL draft, okay? Keep that in mind. And people were saying that in our live streams yesterday that this guy should have gone in a Superflex league as a top 8, top 10 pick. We just don't see that way coming into this year with Keon Coleman. He does go to the Carolina Panthers. There's a pathway there. Obviously, with Bryce Young, there's a lot of mixed emotions with Bryce Young. Is he a bust? Is the bad coaching staff? They clearly fired Frank Wright. What's going to happen with Keon Coleman? One of the biggest things I've said is that name a trait outside of his good hands and his contested catch ability or one-on-one contested catch ability that he brings to the table. I'm not necessarily sure that I can name something else for me personally. But if he does go, he was a first pick or second pick coming out of the second round, going to the Carolina Panthers, very similar draft capital to a Jonathan Mingo. Do they invest in another wide receiver in the offseason? And if they don't, which they shouldn't because they don't have their first, right? So it's not like you can go trade for T. Higgins or you can sign T. Higgins in the offseason. Like, who are you going to go out and get? You're going to have to get someone like a Keon Coleman. He might be somebody that hopefully produces in some way, in some shape or form, and he proves us wrong here. So I'll take Keon Coleman, but I don't love the player personally, and I'm not in love with the landing spot either.
So I'm not as harsh as you. I think I personally think you're quite harsh when you speak on Keon.
Maybe I am.
Excuse me. I do think there's a lot of things that he does well. I think he does a lot of things really well. He broke out at a young age. He had better production than Jaden Reed at Michigan State. I think his hands are really special. Great jump ball receiver. I think he's very fast. He's going to test really well. I mean, he's returning kicks for that team. But the thing, again, that that I think lacks in his game is route running, which you talked about. And I think that's not saying that means he's not going to succeed in the NFL, but it's just, it makes it a little bit more difficult to translate. But I would say this landing spot is super interesting because all of Carolina's receivers outside of Adam Thielen, what can they not seem to do? If you really dive into the film, they can't seem to separate. And it's just a little concerning that you're drafting the one wide receiver that worries us the most so far as their ability to separate at the next level. But at the same time, I have talked about how Kenny Golladay was a comp for Keon Coleman. Kenny Golladay was really good in Detroit because he had a ball slinger, a guy who was accurate.
Yep.
And maybe Bryce is just going to trust Keon a little bit more and let his contested catchability really shine. Really interesting landing spot, though. All right, with the next pick, I think there's a lot of different ways that I could go, but to me, this is where I would probably take Adonai Mitchell. He goes to the
Yeah.
Dallas Cowboys, and I think he instantly becomes their number 2 wide receiver over there in Dallas. Brandon Cooks is getting older. He's a good piece for now. Excuse me, Michael Gallup, like respectfully, it's through the wash at this point.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think Adonai Mitchell could be the perfect complementary piece to a CeeDee Lamb. He will play outside. He has some clear strengths and weaknesses. He's not a super versatile player, but he's very good at what he's good at, which is, those strong hands, contested catching. I think he can become a better route runner, but I'll take Adonai Mitchell here at the 204.
Okay, Adonai Mitchell going off the board here. Okay, I'm at the 205. I guess this is where I can take another tight end. Maybe it's too early, but hey, if he does get the second round draft capital, Javion Sanders going to the Indianapolis Colts here, one of the biggest prospects coming out of Texas. Now, the biggest question is, what about the landing spot? We haven't really seen too much in the tight end position at this landing spot personally. At least the history we've seen it there with Peyton Manning in the years before, but we haven't seen any recent history, with Mo Alley Cox and what that looks like. Obviously, Anthony Richardson is going to be under center here going into the 2024 season. Does he spread the ball around? What if Michael Pittman walks, right? If Michael Pittman walks and then they draft a big body tight end and keep Josh Downs, maybe there's some opportunity there to step into some targets here. So I'll take Javion Sanders here at the 205.
All right, at the 206, we'll see another running back come off the board finally. That is Michigan's Blake Corum. He ends up with the Houston Texans in the middle of the second round. Some people really hate Blake Corum, or some people really like him. It feels like so far there's no in between from the people that we have talked to, but he has great strength, great break tackle ability. He's good in yards after contact. He's a high IQ player. He's actually a pretty good pass catcher. I don't think he has very good long run speed. He's not the same athlete that a Trey Benson or a Travion Henderson are, but I think there is potential for him to have the ceiling of like a Maurice Jones-Drew, a Ray Rice type of player. It's not a perfect comp, but I think his floor is more like a Dion Lewis, so that is a little bit concerning as far as usage within an offense. But with the capital second round pick, to a team that, no disrespect to Dameon Pierce, but I think desperately needs an answer at running back, I think Blake Corum could be that for this offense that's continually getting better. So I'm going to go ahead and take Blake Corum there at the 206.
Okay. Interested in Blake. I was going to say I don't love the landing spot because it kind of brings what Dameon Pierce does.
I don't worry about Dameon Pierce. You guys know
I'm
I've
not
been
saying
labeled the Dameon Pierce hater.
I'm not saying
he doesn't worry me.
Yeah, I'm not saying like Dameon Pierce should worry me with Blake Corum. I'm saying like I don't think Blake Corum brings anything different than what Dameon Pierce does, in my opinion.
Oh, well, we would disagree there then. That's okay.
All right, I'm going to go with the quarterback here. Tampa Bay Buccaneers going with a quarterback out of Oregon at the 207, and that's Bo Nix. Brother Bo here going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And one of the things I've been seeing on the live stream this past week here was that wherever he goes, he is going to be going straight into competition with a starting opportunity. We've seen Baker Mayfield and what he has been doing this past year has been decent, right? He's been decent for fantasy as well. Now, if does Mike Evans, stay, he has a good dump-off running back, and someone like a Rashad White, a Chris Godwin is going to be another year into his contract here. I think you can potentially see him if Baker Mayfield goes down, or if he outplays him in the summer, he can be a starting quarterback coming into this league in a conference or a division that is not necessarily strong where he can easily succeed. So sure. I'm okay with Bo Nix here at the 207. Take a chance on him.
All right, I'm going to take another running back off the board. It's not a running back that I'm necessarily in love with, but he gets second round capital. I feel like draft capital is just very, very important for your running backs in Dynasty. He gets an incredible landing spot to the Minnesota Vikings. That is Braylon Allen out of Wisconsin. Now, look, there is a community of people who think Braylon Allen is truly an incredible prospect and that he's going to dominate at the next level. I wouldn't personally put myself in that category. I think he has very clear strengths and weaknesses. The strength is obvious, right? One of the strongest dudes you'll see. Downhill running, he's a menace downhill. Huge, ridiculous athlete at 6'2", 245. My issue with him has always been he's not very versatile. He's not going to catch a lot of passes. Doesn't have much burst or short area quickness. He's not very elusive. He is 250 pounds, so of course he's not very elusive, but still, it's just he has a very clear running style. There's not much versatility to his game, but it's great draft capital, a part of a very good offense, so I'll go ahead and take him there at the 208.
Okay, I'm going with another or a wide receiver here. Don't love the landing spot, but we'll take him. Xavier Leggett, Leggett, excuse me. XL, that Zach likes to call him here. Going to the Detroit Lions here. DK Metcalf-esque type of player. Big body guy that can go up and get the ball. 6'3", 227 pounds. Look, great PFF grade, great reception grade. Never essentially really drops the ball at all. Coming into this year, the only downfall is that he is a fifth-year senior. He is an older prospect. But going to the Detroit Lions, I'm not saying they should give away with Jameson Williams, but they need to figure it out sooner rather than later because in a fantasy perspective. But we've seen him getting a little bit open, and you saw Marvin Jones kind of not be part of this offense anymore, and et cetera, et cetera. So maybe he does get some opportunity here. Not loving the landing spot, but hopefully there's a pathway.
Yeah, I do like the player. The landing spot is tough because at best he's the third. Well, at best he's a fourth option. Yeah. You know, when you think about Amon-Ra, you think about
Sam Laporta,
Jahmyr Gibbs.
All those guys.
That's tough.
It's a tough landing spot.
I'm going to take another player that I love, but I hate the landing spot. That is Ladd McConkey. He goes to the Atlanta Falcons here, which just seems to be a death sentence for any fantasy success for a receiver. But I do love the player. I mean, he's a great separator. They did draft Spencer Rattler in this mock.
Gosh.
I don't know if that helps, but they did in the 4th round. Yeah, I wish I could have taken him much earlier, but the landing spot is atrocious.
Yeah, I get what you're saying there. All right, I'm going to go with a running back. Maybe not a thought process for this year. Maybe it could be. But Marshawn Lloyd here going to my beloved New York Giants. Does Saquon walk? Does he not walk? We did like what we saw out of Marshawn Lloyd, very quick, bursty, twitchy running back in space, and that's exactly what you want. Somebody that can extend the play and dump off passes, a great pass catcher as well, but also can run in between the tackles there. So I'll take Marshawn Lloyd here at the 212 or 211, excuse me.
Just to end the video, I'm gonna just have fun with a pick. There's so many names. We'll talk about them afterwards that you could go here. But I'm just having a little fun. We'll take Sweet Baby Ray Davis.
Hey, Sweet Baby Rays.
Out of Kentucky. He goes to the Arizona Cardinals in the 4th round. Who knows what happens with James Conner? He's getting older. His contract is, running out at some point. And Ray Davis, we don't think that he can necessarily lead a backfield, but I think he can be a very important complementary piece. And if given opportunity, I think he can give you, think about what Dameon Pierce was in year 1 when everyone was crazy about him. They're like, oh my God, he's a star. I think Ray can give you an incredible rookie year if he gets the volume. And at minimum, that gives you the opportunity to turn him if he does produce. So I'll take Ray Davis there. We're a big fan of Ray. Love his story. He worked for literally everything that he's ever had.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of names that didn't make the cut here. We'll talk about a couple names. J.J. McCarthy, he was a 3rd round pick. So that was tough to draft him. Malachi Corley went in the 3rd, but it was to the Colts.
Yeah.
I don't know how to really digest that one. Jalen Polk went in the 4th. Will Shipley in the 4th. There's a couple names that we like that just did not get good draft capital. I mean, a lot of people are going to be asking, where's Bucky Irving? Well, Bucky Irving was a 6th round pick.
Yeah.
In this mock draft that we used.
Yeah.
So that really just that didn't work out. Any other names that you wanted to shout out there?
No, I think you think of Michael Penix as well as a quarterback. I know it's one quarterback, but he does go to Seattle. Another team could be interesting if he wants to compete there. Other than that, it's not that many people.
Seattle in the third, that was definitely an option there because, you know, if Geno doesn't play well, we could see Penix kind of.
You could see Penix, you know,
this
another option or opportunity of him kind of competing going into training camp, just like the reason why I took Bo Nix. So yeah.
That's it for today, though, guys. Hopefully you appreciate, you know, the content. You enjoyed the content. Let us know what you think. But if you do want access to our rookie rankings, which we'll be releasing at the end of the month, we have our scouting and ranking package, which, you know, it's going to be a PDF of all positions, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. It'll have our rankings. It'll have the breakdown of the attributes, our scouting grades, pro comparisons, you know, all that jazz and more. If you want access to that, then make sure you're using our promo code LAND.
Yes.
When you sign up to the Flock Fantasy website, you'll only be able to access that if you are a Mother Flocker member. So make sure you choose that tier.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you choose the Mother Flocker tier, you're going to get more than just the scouting package. You'll get rankings for one quarterback and Superflex Dynasty regular rankings.
It goes
on.
You
will also get a Dynasty team review where we break down your roster for you and give you some advice. You'll get the Dynasty trade show, which is where you can show us your trades, and we'll break it down every week. And you also get the Fantasy Hotline, which is a direct DM to us for advice, as well as all the incredible articles from everyone on the site, the trade calculator. I mean, it's an incredible package for you. So consider supporting the show. I can promise you it is absolutely going to be something that you don't regret doing. And we appreciate y'all. Drop a like, and we'll see you very soon. All up. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, LAND, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.
It's so easy. Even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.